welcome back to episode number 4 of Commentators Corner. I am Tyler Reedy. That is Brendan Preisman to my right, and this is not the only time you're going to be hearing our voices this week because we got a football game to call finally against Millard West this Friday night.
We certainly do, and it's going to be a good one. Perhaps no stranger to dramatic finishes either last year or this year, but this game certainly has potential to be one of the games of the year when it comes to drama.
Yeah, absolutely. We thank you for joining us again, fourth episode of our show, our podcast. We've had a lot of fun doing it so far, and we're glad you've come along for the ride, and we can't wait to bring you a football game Friday night against Millard West. And as you said, good game coming up, very evenly matched. Number 6 Creighton Prep, or number 6 Millard West against number 8 Creighton Prep. Both teams with a 1-2 record, so should be a lot of fun. Could get a great game out of that one.
Yeah, certainly will. And just to quickly recap what happened in Prep's last game, playing on the road against Lincoln Southeast in Lincoln. You were there. You were live tweeting that game. You said it was a great atmosphere. Watch party was also a great atmosphere until Prep started losing. Lincoln Southeast ended up pulling out the victory. There's some good and bad for Prep. Obviously, there's some good 15 fourth quarter points, nearly coming all the way back and getting the win. But the bad, almost had a stop and then let a jump pass on a fake punt get by for a first down, and also let Southeast running back Max for 129 rushing yards. So there's definitely good and bad to be taken from this game. Hopefully, with an extra week of practice under their belt, the team offense and defense will be clicking more, and it'll be more cohesive.
Yeah, it was quite the game. Prep had 2 weeks to prepare for that game. Well, they couldn't really fully prepare due to the quarantine because of the positive test that happened 13 days before that game against Lincoln Southeast. But they came out. It was a slow start. They got one first down on the opening drive, but then soon after a pick six, Prep really struggled to move the ball in the first half, and soon enough they were down 21-0 in the third quarter. But as you said, the offense really heated up. They recovered a muffed punt inside the Lincoln Southeast red zone, and then off they went. They made it a 24-21 game, nearly came all the way back. And as you said, I was there down on the sideline covering the game on Twitter, and the atmosphere was incredible. The sideline was really into the game. You could just feel the energy on the field, on the sideline as well. So it was a lot of fun, and I can't wait to see how that carries over to this week.
Going up against another slow starting team, but also a fairly slow finisher in Millard West. They've had a pretty dramatic season so far as well. No positive tests for them. All the drama's come on the field, but there has been a lot of it. They lost to Elkhorn South in the opening week of the season on a go-ahead field. They were able to bounce back after a 21-14 win over Millard North, but against Millard South, their defense kind of fell off the rails a little bit. 3 different Millard South players rushed for over 65 yards. And one thing that is a little concerning for this team is they have not won a fourth quarter scoring margin yet this season, and that's against a second half team like Prep.
Yeah, we just saw what Prep was able to do, but Millard West, their offense has been pretty good to this point. They've got a bit of a 3-headed monster going with the quarterback, Jacob Jones. He had a big game last week in the loss to Millard South, 260 passing yards and a touchdown, and then 61 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown as well. He played in week 1, and then in the last game against Millard South, didn't play the second game in between. And then a running back, you've got Nathan Peterson, who's got 2 100-yard rushing games. Those were in the first 2 games of the season. And then he had a big receiving game in the Millard South game. And then Caleb Holtman, who has the longest Millard West play of the season so far with a 93-yard touchdown run against Millard North in week 2. So be interesting to see if Prep can stop that attack that Millard West has.
Yeah, I'd say these teams are definitely pretty even. They're even facing some of the same problems. I go over this a little bit more in my precap, which should be up later. Let me get this out tonight. So precap should be out Thursday, the 24th. But I mentioned this a little bit. I think there's a lot of different tiers in Class A right now, especially with OPS gone. There's like the top 3 teams, like West Side, Bellevue West, teams like that are championship contenders. There's teams like Lincoln Southeast that could make on a run. And then I think Prep and Millard West are both in that 3rd tier, the team that, if they get pretty lucky, could make a deep playoff run. They're going to make the playoffs. They might host a home game or 2, but they're not quite on the championship level yet. And the run defense for both teams could prove to be problematic. One issue for they might not be able to take advantage of Millard West's weakness against the run because there hasn't been a Prep running back that's stepped up so far yet. They still haven't had a running back go over 50 rushing yards in a game to this point, which is not great. And while that could mean the team has a couple of different options, a lot of those options working well and clicking well. So if Prep can find an alpha dog in the backfield to really carry the load for the team, take maybe 15, 20 carries, and get 100 yards or so, that might make the difference in this game.
Yeah, I mean, run game, as you said, has been a big struggle this year. Vinny Cassioppo, who would have been the lead running back this year after playing a full season as a starter in 2019, of course, had that dislocated elbow. He dressed for the game on Friday night, so that was a good sign. Could be on his way back, but I don't know about you, but after watching the Lincoln Southeast game and the way Prep was able to just carve up one of the best defenses in Class A through the air, I kind of want to see Prep open things up a bit more and lean a bit more on that passing game because they've got all kinds of talent. Meisenberg has proved himself to be quite an efficient passer, and then A.J. Rollins, of course, a tight end, the Nebraska commit. I think he only has maybe 5 catches this year. They got to try and get him the ball more.
Mm-hmm.
And Alex Bullock, who's just been a machine on both sides of the ball, playing wide receiver and cornerback. He's got 3 receiving touchdowns along with 3 interceptions. So I'd like to see Prep try and open things up and air it out a bit more this week. Maybe that can get them a win. We'll see.
Yeah, and I do think there is another issue with that, with the cohesiveness factor, because I think we mentioned this in the West Side podcast. When Prep stops in a sack or a holding penalty or something like that, the offense seems to kind of sputter and ends up delving into a predictable pattern where you get to 3rd down and the fans know what's coming, the defense knows what's coming, and it doesn't really work. So if Prep can get clicking early, especially at 6'6", he's going to be a tough guy to cover for any defense, then the passing game should be able to wreak havoc against this Millard West defense.
Yeah, because the theme last week with Lincoln Southeast, the first half, Prep was almost unable to accumulate any first downs because what they would do is they would run the football 1st and 2nd down, but with that lack of a strong run game, they would get maybe no gain or 1 or 2 yards, and that would bring them into 3rd and 6, 3rd and 8, and the passing game can only do so much in those situations, especially when everybody on the field knows it's going to be a pass. But then in the second half, when Prep was trailing and had to throw the ball on almost every play, they were really able to find a lot of success, carved up that Lincoln Southeast defense. So maybe they come out throwing this week. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun game.
Yeah, 2 evenly matched teams, both 1 and 2, both within the top 8, and it's Prep's first home game of the season. Of course, playing their home games at Omaha Westside High School this year, and we thank them for allowing Prep's football team to use their stadium. It's a big rivalry between Prep and Westside, but bottom line is they both want to play football, and that's exactly what they're doing this year. So we thank them for that gracious move, and can't wait to be there Friday night. Check it out.
No watch party because it's senior night for Prep, so the seniors will be allowed to be in attendance, socially distanced. However, if you do want to catch the game, head on over to CPTV. Check out. We're going to be on the live stream.
Yep, can't wait for it. So high school football keeps rolling. It's week 5 now, and NFL week 2 is in the books. We saw some great games there. You and I watched it together, at least the early afternoon games, and the biggest storyline of week 2 was injuries because we saw some big name players go down. in week 2. Saquon Barkley, Giants electrifying running back. He was the number 2 pick in a lot of fantasy football drafts this year. He went down to a torn ACL in the game against Chicago, out for the season. Christian McCaffrey, arguably the best running back in the league, maybe the best player in the league for the Carolina Panthers. High ankle sprain, out 4 to 6 weeks, and that's a kind of injury that you can attest to. You've had a high ankle sprain before.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Certainly have.
Yeah, not a great
Also,
experience.
ironic considering that I'm not a member of any football team, as far as I'm aware of.
Yeah.
But it's not just those guys either. Nick Bosa, potential Defensive Player of the Year candidate, also done for the year. And the 49ers got hit really hard in their matchup. Not only Bosa, but Jimmy Garoppolo will be out for their next game against the Jets. Raheem Mostert will miss some time. And it happened all over. Drew Lock's going to miss a few games, so Jeff Driscoll will have to take over for the Broncos. Cortland Sutton out for the year. And the team doctors, Tyrod Taylor did not start the Chargers game against the Chiefs Sunday afternoon, and there were a lot of people wondering why. The Chargers said he had a chest injury. Eventually, the news came out that he was getting a painkiller injection and got a punctured lung. So that's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever heard about one like that before. Heard about a lot of crazy injuries, but not quite as a result of something of a painkiller injection. That's a weird one. But his backup, Justin Herbert, the rookie first-round draft choice of the Chargers, came in against the defending Super Bowl champions. It was only an hour or two before the game when he was told that he would start the game against Kansas City, and he did just fine, over 300 passing yards, a passing touchdown, a rushing touchdown. Got the Chargers out to a 17-9 lead in that second half, but Kansas City able to come back as Patrick Mahomes really got hot. And then the kicker, Harrison Butker, was able to deliver a 58-yard field goal, which tied a franchise record early in the second half. And then he kicked a 53-yarder in overtime, but that didn't count because the Chargers, or rather there was a false start on the play against Kansas City. So then he had to kick from 58 to win the game in overtime. Made that one, but the Chargers had called a timeout. And so he kicks from 58 again and makes it, and this one counts to win the game. So he was clutch. Chiefs squeak out a win before their big matchup with the Ravens next week.
That's going to be a great game. And speaking of rookie quarterbacks, Joe Burrow, now 0-2 for the Bengals through no fault of his own. Threw 61 passes against the Browns on Thursday night. Threw for 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, but the defense for the Bengals just looked terrible. Nick Chubb, 124 rushing yards, 10 carries, 86 yards, and a score. The Bengals just looked like the same sort of dumpster fire they were last year. And one thing I saw after the game, some commentary, was that they better be careful that they don't make Burrow pull an Andrew Luck, which is where a team drafts a franchise guy who's super talented around him, and he just can't take it anymore. Like we saw that happen with Andrew Luck, and if the Bengals don't get a decent offensive line going soon, same thing might happen with Burrow.
Yeah, he got hit plenty of times, but whenever the offensive line gave him at least good amount of time to throw, he made some really, really nice looking throws against a more than capable Cleveland secondary. So a lot to be excited about with him. Hopefully he can stay healthy. On track to win Rookie of the Year, I would say, at this point. Another big story from the games in Week 2, the Dallas Cowboys were trailing the Atlanta Falcons 29-10 in the first half of their game. Cowboys fumbled 4 times in the first quarter. Falcons jumped out to a huge lead, reminiscent of the one they had in Super Bowl 51, 28-3, but then, as they did in Super Bowl 51, they blow it again. And Dallas wins it 40-39 as they got an onside kick with just under 2 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. And were able to win it on a game-winning field goal. Incredible comeback from the Cowboys.
For any Atlanta fans that are left after that debacle, it was terrible to watch. We were watching the first quarter and we were just like, oh, the Falcons are just blowing the doors off. 4 fumbles for the Cowboys in the first quarter alone, 2 failed fake punts, down 20 at the end of one. And we're just like, okay, this is over. And then Red Zone comes back about 2 hours later. Oh, hey, by the way, And we were just so confused. And then we saw the actual onside kick, which was just incredible to see none of the Falcons' hands team jump on the ball at any point. Incredible kick by Greg Zuerlein, by the way, to even get the Cowboys to that point. And then he kicked the winner.
Yeah.
Staying in the AFC East, a very bad week for the rest of those teams. Philadelphia Eagles fall to 0-2. Carson Wentz booed by the virtual crowd. 26-43, 2 picks, and the Jared Goff Carson Wentz debate might need to be reopened because Goff played really well. 20 of 27, 267 yards, 3 touchdowns, and the Rams.
Yep, and then Washington football team, they got the big win against Philadelphia last week, and you said they could be a playoff contender with how bad the NFC East was, but Arizona and their high-flying offense with Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins and company, they rolled them 30-15. It was a much more one-sided game than the score would suggest, but Kyler Murray may be looking like an early MVP candidate, and then you had the opening of Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, first NFL game in Las Vegas with the Raiders hosting the Saints on Monday night, and the Raiders upset the Saints, a perennial playoff team, 34-24. So Vegas off to a 2-0 start. Seahawks beat the Patriots on Sunday Night Football in a clash of the Titans between Russell Wilson and Cam Newton. That game 35-30. Both quarterbacks had over 30 fantasy points in that one. So there were a lot of good games and a lot of fun ones to watch.
Yeah, there were also some is fun. Aaron Rodgers seems like he's got some sort of insatiable bloodlust for just throwing touchdowns and destroying other NFC North teams. Didn't have to throw for too many touchdowns against the Lions because Aaron Jones stepped up pretty big for the Packers. 168 yards, 2 touchdowns. Also led them in receiving and a score. And then in another blowout of an NFC North team, Kirk Cousins just had an awful game. I did not like that at all. 11 of 26, 113 yards, 3 interceptions. He had a passer rating of 0 at one point in that game, and Indianapolis ran away with it. They might be able to contend for a wild card spot in the AFC if they keep playing like they did against the Vikings.
Yeah, they looked great. Phillip Rivers got his first win as quarterback of the Indianapolis Colts. Meanwhile, Tom Brady, 6-time Super Bowl champion, got his first win as quarterback of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 31-17 over the Carolina Panthers. Chicago Bears beat the New York Giants 17-13, so the Bears had the questions at the quarterback position, but Trubisky has led them to a 2-0 start. Mitchell Trubisky, former second overall draft choice. And then 49ers, defending NFC champions, despite all of their injuries, were able to beat the Jets, who so far look like the worst team in the league. They were able to beat the Jets 31-13. Titans beat the Jaguars 33-30 behind a big game from Ryan Tannehill. And then the Steelers over the Broncos 26-21 in a much closer game than a lot of people expected.
Yeah, and then to top it all off, 2 of my teams played each other, the Ravens and the Texans. The Texans go tender with an MVP quarterback that can kill you in the throwing game or the passing game or the running game, to another Super Bowl contender with an MVP quarterback that can kill you in the passing game or the running game. And the game was not close at all. Lamar Jackson only had to throw for 204 yards because the Ravens' rushing attack was just so easy win for the Ravens, 33-16. The Ravens-Chiefs game on Monday night has game of your potential already.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there hasn't been that much hype for an NFL game regular season-wise since that Chiefs-Rams game on Monday night that ended up being a 54-51 game, one of the greatest games in all time for regular season games. So Chiefs-Ravens, maybe an AFC Championship preview. A lot of people think that's how it's going to be, and it's going to be one heck of a game.
Yeah. All right, and watching some of the games, especially those in the early slate, gave me a very nice hot take. I know I had one from last week that was a little bit goes fairly hot. This one, a million on the Scoville scale, very spicy. Make sure you got some milk to protect your mouth from this. Here is my hot take after watching Week 2 action. There will be multiple firings before Week 8 in the NFL. Multiple head coaches will be out of a job. And if you want, I could even give you names of the coaches that I think are most likely.
Let me see if I can guess them here. I'm going to go with Adam Gase, Jets head coach. Is that one of them?
Actually, no. The New York organization is just so at this point, I don't think any hiring or firing could help them. So it's not Gase, no, although he definitely could be. But it's not him.
Dan Quinn of the Atlanta Falcons, maybe after that.
Dan Quinn, Atlanta Falcons. That is absolutely correct. Yeah. How in the world do you blow a 15-point lead with 5 minutes to go? It's unexplainable how little this franchise learned from 28-3. They just keep making the same mistakes. Oh, time to keep passing the ball and play soft zone. Woohoo! What could go wrong there? Yeah. And the other coach is Matt Patricia of the Detroit Lions. He's been trying to run kind of a Patriots junior organization over in Detroit, and they've had some of the same customs, some of the same coaches. Success started 0-2. Neither of their games have been particularly close. And I saw one funny take that said Matt Stafford is getting real jealous of Calvin Johnson's early retirement.
Yeah. Lions are struggling. They had the 3rd overall pick in the draft, so they were one of the worst teams last year with a bunch of injuries. Now they're just about fully healthy and still having an awful start to the year. So NFL is definitely going to be interesting. Only 2 weeks in and already a whole lot to talk about as usual. So that's about it for episode number 4. Thank you for joining us. Make sure to check out the game Friday night. We'll have the call for it, Creighton Prep and Millard West. And thanks for joining us again, and we will see you next week.